August 1944. Hill 314 above Mortain, France. One American lieutenant with a single SCR-610 radio, batteries dying, sat encircled with an infantry battalion while two panzer divisions tried to push through the valley below. In 6 days, Lieutenant Robert Weiss of the 230th Field Artillery Battalion called 193 fire missions from that hilltop. Corps artillery fired around the clock at his direction. The 2nd Panzer Division and 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich could not break through. One man, one radio, 2 panzer divisions stopped. The German army had snipers who could kill a man at 800 meters. They had orders about what to do when they found the guy with the radio. Those orders were not what the internet thinks they were. Every army in the Second World War had forward observers. The British had their FOOs, forward observation officers, riding in armored carriers commanding their own troops' fire. The Germans had the Vorgeschobener Beobachter, tied to telephone wire and pre-registered targets. The Soviets followed the same model. In every case, the observer controlled his own battery. Anything larger required climbing a chain of authority, waiting for approval, waiting for coordination. Time from spotting to first round? 12 to 15 minutes on a good day. The American system was structurally different, and the difference was born not on a battlefield, but on a firing chart at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Beginning in 1929, Major Carlos Brewer's gunnery department introduced surveyed battery positions and a centralized plotting method. Major Orlando Ward built that concept into the Fire Directions Center, a single nerve hub where the math lived, not of the battery, but behind it, computing fire solutions for every gun in range. By 1944, one observer's radio call could fire every howitzer in a division, a corps, an army. No permission chain, no delay. No other army on Earth could do this. The system needed a war to prove it. It got one on the 23rd of March 1943 at El Ghetar, Tunisia. The German 10th Panzer Division rolled into the 1st Infantry Division's positions at dawn. 50 panzers in the morning mist. They hit a minefield first, then the 1st Division's artillery found them. Forward observers on the surrounding hills called corrections while the FDC massed every tube in range. Timed airburst. Shells detonating 15 feet above the ground, spraying shrapnel downward into open hatches and exposed infantry, shredded the Panzer Grenadiers at 1,500 yards. 30 of 50 panzers were burning by midday. General George Patton, watching from a forward observation post, shook his head and said, "They're murdering good infantry." The system Brewer and Ward had designed on paper had just killed a panzer division in the desert. But the system was only as good as the man at the sharp end, the lieutenant with the binoculars and the radio, standing with the infantry he wasn't officially part of. Who was he? What did he carry? And what made him the most dangerous individual on the Western Front? He was a 2nd or 1st lieutenant from a 105mm howitzer battery, detached forward and attached to a rifle company. 3 FO parties per direct support artillery battalion, 1 per company. Each team, the observer, a radio operator, and a wireman. He carried M3 binoculars, a map case with a celluloid-covered firing grid, a compass, and an SCR-610 FM radio to talk to his battalion FDC. Often a second radio, an SCR-536 handy-talkie or an SCR-300,
to talk to the infantry platoon leader beside him. He lived with the riflemen, he ate with them, he died with them. He was not eligible for the combat infantryman badge. Here is what he could do that the riflemen could not.
An American infantry platoon could put roughly 40 rifles on a target, an air-cooled 30 caliber machine gun, a few bazookas. Killing radius, maybe 150 meters. That same lieutenant, with a working radio and a grid coordinate, could put 12 to 36 howitzers and 8-inch guns on that same target inside 2 minutes. 600 to 6,000 pounds of high explosive per minute, observed and adjustable. On a core fire plan, up to 600 tubes. And here was the part that broke the German army's nerve. Time on target. Each battery computed its own time of flight and back-timed the lanyard pull so that every shell from every gun in range crossed the target plane within plus or minus 3 seconds. No warning, no ramp-up, no first round to send men diving for cover. The first sound the enemy heard was the full weight of an artillery corps arriving simultaneously on his position. There is a persistent claim in military law, repeated so often it has become fact on the internet, that German snipers were specifically ordered never to shoot this man, that the standing order was to let him live. The truth is more dangerous than the myth, but that answer is waiting on a hilltop in Normandy. First, what the FO looked like in a fight. Lanzarat Ridge, the Belgian Ardennes, 16th December 1944, the opening morning of the Bulge. 4 artillery forward observers from Battery C, 371st Field Artillery Battalion, 99th Infantry Division, Lieutenant Warren Springer, Sergeant Peter Gackey, Technician 4th Grade Willard Wibben, and Technician 5th Grade William James Billy Queen, joined Lieutenant Lyle Book's 18-man Intelligence and Reconnaissance Platoon, 394th Infantry Regiment, on a wooded ridge above the village. 22 Americans. Below them, the 9th Fallschirmjäger Regiment, screening the armored spearhead of Kampfgruppe Piper, 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte. Springer called fire from a jeep-mounted SCR 610. The paratroopers came up the slope in waves. The shells came down. By dusk, 92 Germans were dead or wounded. Queen was killed. The position was overrun. All 4 FOs received the Distinguished Service Cross, and the spearhead of a panzer division sat paralyzed for approximately 20 hours, long enough to cascade into Piper's logistical collapse on the northern shoulder at Elsenborn Ridge. The most decorated American platoon of the entire war. 4 of the 22 were artillerymen with radios. That was one ridge, one morning. Now multiply it across a front. Dom Butkenbach, Belgium, 19 to 22 December 1944, 3 days after Lanzarat, 50 kilometers south. The 2nd Battalion, 26th Infantry Regiment, 1st Infantry Division, held high ground they called the Hot Corner against the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend. Brigadier General Clift Andrus coordinated not just the 1st Division's organic artillery, the 33rd Field Artillery Battalion under Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Brown, but the 99th Division's guns and 5th Corps reinforcing battalions. The FO net fed 300 fire missions on the 21st of December alone. On the 22nd, the 1st Division's artillery fired 10,000 rounds in 8 hours. The ground shook at the gun positions. The sound was continuous. Not individual shots, not salvos, but a rolling industrial thunder that did not stop. Afterward, U.S. Graves registration counted 782 German dead in front of the 26th Infantry's positions. 47 destroyed tanks. The tactical logic was simple and merciless.
The FO net meant the Americans did not need to see every attacker. They needed to see one grid coordinate, one radio call. Every gun in range answered.
Then there was First Lieutenant Erwin Blonder, 131st Field Artillery Battalion, the FO with 1st Battalion, 141st Infantry Regiment, 36th Infantry Division. The Lost Battalion, cut off in the Vosges Mountains during Operation Dogface, 24 October 1944. 600 men surrounded. Blonder's radio was their sole contact with the rest of the division for 6 days, until relief by the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. His letter home, archived, readable today, records a German sniper actively firing on him as he moved between observation posts. The crack of a Mauser round passing close enough to hear the snap. This man, the one the internet says German snipers were ordered to protect, was being hunted. And then, Hill 314, Mortain, France, 6 August 1944. Operation Lutich, Hitler's counteroffensive to sever the Allied breakout from Normandy. The full weight of 2nd Panzer Division and 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich drove into the 30th Infantry Division sector. On the hilltop above the town, encircled with the 2nd Battalion, 120th Infantry Regiment, sat Lieutenant Robert Weiss, Battery B, 230th Field Artillery Battalion, and his radio operator, Sergeant Sasser. Alongside them, Lieutenant Charles Bates, Lieutenant Bartz, who would not survive the siege, and 18-year-old Staff Sergeant Frank Denius, Battery C, 230th FA, who would earn 4 Silver Stars before the war ended. 6 days encircled. The SCR 610's batteries dying cell by cell. Weiss called 193 fire missions. Corps artillery, the 155mm howitzers of the 18th, 188th, and 957th Field Artillery Battalions, plus 7th Corps reinforcing battalions, fired around the clock at his direction. When the panzers tried to push past, their formations were shattered by observed fire. Called from a single fading radio on a hilltop, Lieutenant Colonel Louis D. Veeman, commanding the 230th, confirmed each mission with 3 words through the static: on the way. The claim was that German snipers were ordered never to shoot the man with the radio. No captured Wehrmacht order says this. No German manual. No named veteran testimony. The captured interrogations of Germany's top snipers, Matthias Hetzenauer, Sepp Allerberger, Helmut Wernsberger, all of the 3rd Mountain Division, record their standing target priority explicitly: observers, heavy weapons, commanders. Observers were a priority target, not a protected one. Blonder's letter is contemporaneous proof. The real answer was on Hill 314 the whole time. It was not an order, it was mathematics. Shooting at a forward observer and missing was functionally a suicide note. The survivor would call grid coordinates on your muzzle flash. Within 2 minutes, every gun in range would erase the position. The myth captured a real truth, but the truth was tactical, not doctrinal. German prisoners across 1944 and 45, when interrogated, did not cite American infantry as the arm they feared. Not armor, not air power, artillery. Patton himself put it plainly. I do not have to tell you who won the war. You know, the artillery did. The system was not invincible. In the Hurtgen forest, triple canopy spruce turned American shells into tree-burst fragmentation that killed American infantry. Radios failed behind wet ridgelines. Wire was cut by shellfire faster than wiremen could splice it. FOs lost line of sight at distances measured in meters. In the first 48 hours of the bulge, weather grounded the L4 Piper Cub air observers and degraded radio nets across the Ardennes. The 99th Division's artillery could not fire on the German breakthrough at Hofen until communications were restored.
Remove the radio, remove the network, and the most lethal man on the Western Front was just a lieutenant with binoculars. Today, the job carries a different designation: 13 Foxtrot, Joint Fire Support Specialist, but the principle has not changed. The man with the radio is still the man who calls the fire. Hill 314, August 1944. A lieutenant with dying batteries and a map. Panzer divisions in the valley below. Every time he keyed the handset, 3 words came back through the static. On the way.